Hello all, and thank you for coming. Welcome to the 57th Fortnightly Status Network Town Hall on Monday, May 11th, 2020, live at noon. So we're not on Jitsi and we're not on Zoom. Now we're on StreamYard. And I'm Chris. Our first presenter will be, is it Jared that's presenting first?
Yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Hi, Jared. Thank you for doing this.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. So it'll be very quick for me. I'll go through these slides pretty quickly. Decanus had sent over this article, WeChat They Watch. If you've been working at Status by now, you probably already got the gist of these sort of things. But the Citizen Lab has basically done a report and showing how international users of WeChat contribute to the censorship apparatus just by using the service. So the content that you're sending through WeChat, even as an international user, is still being surveilled and used in their models to basically censor Chinese registered users currently. So yeah, definitely go check it out. It's a pretty interesting read. Yeah, that's it. Next one. So not much has changed in terms of the organization. Hester's done a really good job at kind of starting to get a lot of structure and process around. So we'll establish an overview. You can see core here is starting to come together, and we'll also be looking to integrate Nimbus, Keycard, and VAC next. Strategy hasn't really changed much either. Next slide, please. And Kudos, this week's Kudos is Henry has been really amazing at just being a wonderful community ambassador. Absolutely top-notch, been facilitating the town halls in the past and submitting issues and directing people. Absolute champion. Camillos has dived headfirst into the economic models for incentivized decentralized routing and has been documenting it. Considering he had very little background knowledge in it, it's been really amazing how well he's taken to understanding those models. Demo has been juggling distributed discovery on both sides for Ethereum's V1 and V2. He's been working tirelessly on code quality and has been acting as a bridge between Core, Nimbus, and Waku. Then Yenda, Camillus, Vitaly, Roman, George, and Vladimir you have all been working on specifications and submit some PRs for that. Definitely setting a really good example for the org, and we need more of that. So yeah, great work. And as I mentioned, Hester has been doing a phenomenal job in bringing more order to our process. So yeah, next slide. Yeah, and again, if there's any feedback or anything you want to send to me, there's a form there, or just hit me up on Status. I didn't really have too much in terms of reading that's super interesting, but I did find this book called on Applied Category Theory. It's actually really approachable. If you don't know, category theory is pretty much eating everything in pure mathematics, and it has a lot of practical implications, particularly around compositionality. So we'll see this coming to more in the sort of economic systems we make and like smart contracts and these sort of things. There's also a subfield of game theory called compositional game theory, which basically allows you to create modules of these impartial games or fully complete games. I think they're called open games. Super fascinating field. It's something that I'm becoming very interested in. And it's a really great tool for thinking, particularly when you're coming around to engineering systems. Because in the future, we can then start using something like model-based systems engineering. We can use all the tooling with that to actually design these economic games as well as the systems that they are embedded in, whether it's software or not. So yeah, that's kind of my interest at the moment. Anyway, that's it from me. Short, hopefully sweet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared. I guess the next department is People Ops, and I guess that'd be Carrie. Thank you very much, Carrie.
Yeah, that's me. Hey, everyone. Okay, cool. So we're going to start off with just a quick update on core contributors, new ones joining our team. I am like really jazzed to announce these two new joiners. Both are like insanely talented and really good at what they do. So I'm really excited to see what they bring to Status. Rajiv is joining as a technical writer, and his background is in security researching. So he's bringing some like really valuable technical expertise to our content. Rajiv will sit in the security team working with Corey, but will split his time across like security work and producing content, both like technical marketing content, but also developer docs as well. And actually, fun fact, he's the first core contributor based in India. I can't believe that it's taken us so long. So that's really cool to see that, another pin in the map. Then we have Alex, who's joining us on the marketing team as a growth marketing manager. He'll be working alongside Simon, who recently joined us also on growth marketing. It's really cool to be at a place now where we can kind of do this type of marketing. And like even already we're seeing the new channel on growth marketing come to life. So really excited to see all that work happening. Yeah, warm welcome to both of you guys. Welcome, and it's really cool to have you on the team. Okay, so moving on now to hiring. As you can see, our marketing hiring efforts are now complete for the foreseeable future. So we're really down to just these three kind of very challenging roles to hire for. They're very niche profiles. So we're really just continuing onwards with the strategy of active sourcing, like really going down the rabbit hole, researching, finding profiles we like, reaching out to people, building relationships. So that all takes a lot of work, and the conversion rate is really low. So it's like it looks really quiet, but there's like a lot of activity happening there, just trying to get to the right people and have those discussions. So what's really helpful to us is industry information. Like if you know any cool projects that have similar ethos or principles to us, feel free to make any suggestions or let us know. Because basically then we can keep an eye on them, and as and when people move in and out of these projects or there's changes like downsizing, departures, we can then pick up and try and speak to those people. So yeah, like if you think of anyone that has like a good like philosophical alignment with us, like project or person, do let us know. That's always really helpful. And once we've closed out this hiring peak that we're currently seeing that's been eating up a lot of time as a team, we can then move on to the next phase of hiring, which is really putting in place more proactive strategies and thinking around things like, like refreshing our hiring pages and collateral, more candidate documentations, better processes for keeping in touch with potential future candidates, etc. So like right now it's been pretty reactive, and we want to kind of move that to a more proactive strategy. Next up is just a quick look at our engagement scores and dashboard. So I won't go into it in detail. I just kind of wanted to share with you the latest on where we're at. Participation has been pretty good. I would always, of course, love to see more. So when you get those surveys, feel free to fill them in. It's only a couple of minutes, and the feedback that we get is really useful. On cadence, let me know if you think it should be less often. I believe they're every 2 weeks, but we can basically change that. It's pretty flexible. We could do it like every month. If you prefer that, just let me know. And as you know, I've been kind of like reading the comments as they come in and replying to them. So just so you know, when you get a reply from me, like I don't know who is actually making those comments. So even though we're having a conversation, I don't know who you are, which is kind of interesting. But also, like, if you need me to follow up on something that you shared in feedback, feel free to kind of take it into the attributed DM world, so then I can kind of help you a bit more specifically. But it's actually been really cool to get that feedback and have that discussion with you there. Like, I don't know if anonymity is like helpful, but it's just really interesting to kind of hear your inner thoughts about what's going on at Status and have that chat. So yeah, thanks everyone for humoring me and doing these surveys. I do share like the results of these with Carl and Jared as well every couple of weeks, and it's all really useful data. Like I use it to kind of shape like what we focus on people ops. So yeah, thank you everyone for filling those in. Next slide. So last but not least, taking an interest as I do in kind of news about the human condition, like maybe you've been seeing something in the news about lockdown brain fog. So I just wanted to mention it. Like I thought it was really interesting actually. So the reports basically coming out from psychologists around the effects of like sustained psychological wear and tear and how it can dampen the mental and physical functioning. And, since being in lockdown, like maybe you feel like the cat at the top there, thanks Jacob for the cat meme, and you kind of may have noticed some of these symptoms. So like lethargy, tiredness, fatigue, like even with no movement, like a mysterious intense level of tiredness, Maybe you notice things like time blindness, days blurring into one, or time feeling like it stretches out forever in front of you, or even things like procrastination and feeling like small tasks have become really insurmountable. So why does this happen? So basically, they've managed to pinpoint it to a few things that are kind of being exacerbated by lockdown, like sudden changes in lifestyle, like where we once had schedules, social lives, routines, and these things helped us anchor and center ourselves. Now the days have this like weird inertia to them, and they can also be interspersed with like pretty intense anxiety, stress, and fear. So it's like the perfect storm of a bad psychological environment. There's also like being overwhelmed when there's like no external stimulus that would normally like disrupt negative thoughts. So we've lost the markers in the day that normally help us get out of funks. Like for instance, like if you're having a stressful moment at work and then you go out for a lunchtime gym class or you go pick up your kids, that might have been a time for you to disconnect from worries and then, you know, stop any cycles of spiraling thoughts. But those moments are fewer and further between now. You also, like, there are things like loss of emotional engagement through losing social contact. So this is particularly true for extroverts, where we would normally get our energy from friends and having those social connections. Now those avenues are less available, or we can get more stuck in our own minds. And maybe you've seen that, like, numbness is another one. Like the brain is protecting itself by cutting off from what might be overwhelming to it, leaving you feeling a bit dissociated. So I don't know if maybe these ring true to you or not, but I just kind of wanted to mention it. Things you can do, obviously, I think these are kind of well known, but exercise, you know, stretching every few hours, it improves mood, grounding yourself in the moment, establishing a routine that helps for calmness and be more in control of the situation. And just generally being kind to yourself as well. Like, I think it's difficult in times like this when we can feel bad for like just getting by and not doing something spectacular, like learning a language or something with our lockdown time. You know, maybe feeling guilty about the things that we're not doing, whether in our personal life or in society in general. But I think you really know, like, we need to be nice to ourselves, right? Like, congratulate ourselves on little wins, accept the situations outside of our control, and that the only thing we really can control is how we respond to these things and our behavior. Another thing to look at, you know, stimulation, like try and make a list of new intentions, things that you actually want to do, not feel like you should do, because those are things that tend to get you down. So really just try and work in some small treats or experiences that will energize you and leave you feeling happier. If you're curious, the scientific term for all of this is allostatic load. You can read more about it in the little link on the slide. And yeah, just generally mention it to say that, you know, you might still, why am I mentioning here? Yeah, so you might still be processing and dealing with like the run-on effects of a long and compounded period of stress. So just like the second cat here in this slide, you know, don't worry if you're feeling off your game in your work right now. It's really reasonable and normal, and you will definitely bounce back. So if you want to talk, if you're feeling a bit like, you know, down or whatever, I am here. Just ping me anytime. Yep, and that is it for me. Thanks for listening.
Hello, can you hear me all? Okay.
Okay, thank you for those updates, Carrie. And let's see. Looks like next we have 4 updates. This Jakob? Oh. We can't hear you yet.
So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Hello. I would like to present you the status quo, the component library, which we were working with the design team together. This component library is made mostly to develop the UI components for the status app in isolation and to make the new contributors easier to contribute to the app without working more on thinking how to implement the UI. Also, we will try to keep always the UI components up to date with the design spec. So we will always have in-app the current and the up-to-date design. On the next slide, can you change it? I would like you to show a video where we of the current progress. can you please play the video? This is what we have at the moment. We have some components and an application where a new developer or designer could try and see all the options that our UI components can receive and to style them to use in the feature screens that they want to. Also, here we can modify and see how it will look in different states and also in different themes. For example, we will see next how this component can look. Right now we see the light theme, and we can see how it will look in the dark mode. So having these previews, we can avoid the bugs when some UI parts looks nice on the light mode and they are broken in the dark mode. Having this together in one separated app will help designer to review and check if the specifications are implemented correctly at every moment in time, at every change. So when the app will be shipped, it will contain up-to-date changes. In this example, we can see 4 components. Currently, at this time, we watch the header, which is a combination of all possible states, and we can see how it will look in any possible state in future. Right now, we have implemented 4 components, and we are looking to move all the new components that we have in the design, so the core contributors can use them and to build the functionality in the app. Next slide, please. Right now, we build this app with the 4 components, and we can already test it in the GitHub, and the core contributors can already use these 4 components. Our next steps are to migrate all the components which we already have in the app, and to check that our current status app uses the up-to-date components, and they are rendered correctly in every screen. After that, we plan to integrate automated UI testing, so every change in the UI component will not introduce any regressions, so we will have always up-to-date and correct styles without breaking any active screen. In this screenshot, we can see how, for example, if we change the font weight in header, it may be a mistake. Using some automated UI testing, we will see this mistake and we'll fix before shipping the app, so everything will be correct. That's what we have right now, and thank you. That's it.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. And the next updates will be infrastructure updates by the master of CapPix, Jakob.
Hey. So we've killed Jitsi because it was awful, absolutely awful, and we had all kinds of troubles with it, both with having big meetings and streaming. So we're trying StreamYard. We'll see how that works out. Not bad so far. There's a lot of work going on related to desktop. I've been refactoring a lot the processes that build Status Go and other elements necessary for the desktop app. And I've been helping, for example, Vitaly kind of debug Qt-related issues because bundling Qt or even extracting it is quite a pain. I'm also preparing a bunch of refactors for the way we handle Maven, or specifically Clojure and Gradle dependencies. And I just posted, actually, the slide doesn't look updated, it's just to do, but there's a new PR for the way we update Gradle dependencies, which used to take something like an hour and a half, and now should take under 10 minutes. So that should be a decent improvement for developers. And after that, once that's merged, I will have another one that should reduce the size of the derivations for Gradle and Node dependencies by quite a bit, about 50%. So that should be a big improvement. that's most of it. Thank you. And there should be a security slide too.
One moment. Okay. Next, I believe, will be Corey. Oh, Andy, sorry, my bad.
Well, I think there was a security slide before infrastructure. If you can go back a few, Corey.
One moment.
One before that. Wonder why it's getting skipped. You might have gone into presentation mode.
I think the security slide has been skipped in this presentation.
Yeah,
if someone wants to unskip it, I can go back to it.
I had. You need to get a presentation mode and re-enter. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. So whoever's presenting needs to get out of presentation mode and re-enter it.
I think that's Curry.
There we go.
Excellent. Take it away, Corey.
Cool. Yeah, not a terrible amount of things to discuss here on security this week, but one of the larger things that we have been working on has been released. We have released the request for proposals for Nimbus F2.0 work for external assessment. If you are an auditor, we would love a proposal from you. Click on that link. It's also, you can find it on our.status.im for all of the details around what we're looking for, what we're trying to do, and what we hope to gain from it. If you know any auditors or any firms, spread the word, send it to them, because we want proposals from everyone. We're doing it in somewhat of a different way, and it's in that we're doing a longer a longer effort, so a 4-month engagement around with potentially multiple security vendors, trying to establish longer forms of relationships with the security community, and kind of really integrate security into the development process for Nimbus and F2.0. Some other community initiatives that we've gotten started. In the process of writing a bunch of guides and kind of explainers around what security audits are and how to think about them from an organizational standpoint. I've realized that some of the early initiatives of the Ethereum security community kind of fell by the wayside. So I've secured access to a lot of them. I'll be unifying a lot of that content and posting the guides and articles and content there because it belongs more in a community standpoint than just the status one. So keep your eyes open there for kind of the reinvigoration of those two projects. HackerOne is growing quite rapidly in the private campaign. We're trying to ramp up the number of users there before we can switch over to a fully public campaign that will drive all of our bounty process and kind of vulnerability disclosure process all through the HackerOne platform. And so it's currently going on, and our core contributor Tobias has kind of taken the reins on handling those tickets and the communications with those who submit disclosures within that campaign. So, and always, backup your seed phrase, remember your password. I've gotten quite a few people that told me they've forgotten their password and asked me to give it back to them, but we don't have that control. So, back up your seed phrase, remember your password. We can't give it back to you. That's all for me.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Corey. We're moving on to Andy from marketing. Hopefully you guys can hear my...
Yeah, you sound a lot better, Titus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andy, and this is my first town hall presentation, so I'm happy to be here. Yay. We've got some pretty good metrics on Twitter last month. While impressions are down, that profile visits number up 42% is really, really awesome. And that's where we have a great call to action, and people come into the page and actually checking this out, moving towards that app. So we're pretty happy to see that. The SEO work with our new paid guy, Simon, and now Alex joining in, that's very effective as well with those keywords. improving our search rank term. Pretty happy about that, and we're really starting to see that traffic start to work. Discord numbers 734. Johnny asked me to do this last night, by the way, so I don't have a comparison note for that one, but I have a little context coming up later. And then status IM visitors, you can see we had a little dip in March, but we're back up in April. We've had some pretty good content come out, especially with 1.3 coming out in dark mode. We had some fun with the group chat on social and moving people there. You can see ENS registrations as well. Those are kind of coming with our announcements, especially version updates. And ENS registrations, that's like a content feature that we're going to do this month coming up, kind of explaining how do the usernames work and what's ENS and how does that tie together. So it'll be curious to see how that changes next month, actually. We'll keep an eye on that. dApps, we got plenty of SNT still coming in, being staked as dApps. There's a few that are starting to compete for those top slots on dApps, so that's really interesting to see how that is coming out. And the sticker packs as well are doing well. We've got another one that just came out at the end of last week, so that's not in here. But there's also all these metrics on ENS registrations, dApps, and sticker markets are on, I think it's analytics.status.im, is that right? So you guys can go check that out. Yep, it's right up there. Next slide, please. So we've had some good placed content. We had a very popular Reddit thread in Privacy Tools IO, over 300, I think it was 350 upvotes, and some really spirited discussion in that one. Plenty of critique of the app and discussion of other related apps. But it was very cool to see Status get in front of more of a privacy-centric audience instead of just a crypto audience, and see what conversation came out around that. And that did drive a lot of traffic, as well as people came to test it out and see what it was all about. So that was a really positive hit. A number of placed media in Decrypt and this Jason Brett article as well. Corey was mentioned in a number of articles. There was a Forbes one and a few other ones. So he's really been stepping up and doing quotes for privacy and security sorts of articles. And that's really nice to see. Just last week, we had this tweet go out where we tagged a few notable people in the community and asked people to tag who you would like to have a private group chat with. And that did very well. A lot of retweets on that one, still going somewhat. If you're a core contributor or not, just jump in, find that tweet and reply, tag some people on it, because that was really nice to see. And then our graphics work there, Alex, not paid media, not paid social media, Alex, our graphic designer, Alex, has been doing these really nice looking graphics, and then combined with the dark mode, it really stands out. So those have been good. On social, and like just one of the campaigns not a campaign, but one of the initiatives we've been trying to do is on social, we'll get comments and replies asking for features or critiques or compliments. And so we're trying to reply to those and just, take some time and go in, and I'll say, thanks for your feedback. We're working on that. Or actually this is coming out, just hang on tight. And not only on social, but we had a couple of great suggestions in the marketing channel to do that also on the App Store and the Play Store. So if you guys can go in there now, you can see where we've tried to reply and address people's concerns, tell people why aren't push notifications out? Well, it's really hard to do, but we're working on it actively and really trying to engage with that group of people who are taking the time to comment, because if they're commenting, they're caring. And that's a pretty important set of people we want to talk to there. I think you can go to the next slide, please. So we've got a couple of major campaigns we're working on. Rugi Kavanamahanga put up this COVID-19 relief fund on Assemble for a group in Brazil that is doing basic food baskets for people who are displaced by COVID. And that got placed in Cointelegraph Brazil, and we put that out on social as well. So if you're interested in contributing for that is up and live right now. And then we had a principals webinar. Johnny ran and just kind of going through like what are these principles, what are they about, to try to remind people who we are and why we do things. And then a fair amount of content for the next coming month will come from that webinar. So I'll go in and find out why do we care about security, what are some examples, and use those to add to social to remind our community of what we stand for. This big board on the right, this is kind of our major initiative in the coming couple of weeks. Is we want to make sure, we want to understand rather, when people are coming to the app, what information do they have? What information are they missing? So we've noticed there's a lot of questions about the username. People just don't understand exactly what it is, or they figure it out once they get in, but figuring out why that is, people have very different opinions on that depending on what kind of technical background they come from. And so that's one example where we want to make sure we've addressed that on the marketing flow. So by the time they get to the app, they understand why that is. Why do we have these 3 random words? And if you change that, what are the consequences, and do that. So there's a number of touch points and sort of core messages about the application itself and privacy and Ethereum that we want people to have exposure to beforehand. So that's ongoing. We're building out a survey so that we understand where people are coming from when they get to the app. And ideally, that'll help make our flows into the App Store more educational, so people have better tools as they go forward. Our last kind of campaign, well, not last, but a major campaign, we're getting ready for 1.5 eventually, and 1.4 as well. But Keycard really starting to work with Guy Louis and come up with a plan of how do we release this, how do we hype it up, and how do we get it into people's hands. We've got a number of initiatives there on that side. As a final note, we're really happy to have Alec and Rajiv on. Rajiv has jumped in and has tons of questions and thoughts and answers, and is really sparking great conversation in marketing. And Alec, on our call last week, I guess, he's relatively new to the crypto space and the blockchain space, and is totally excited. He's a really passionate guy and has been thinking about like how do we do privacy and decentralization better, and now is starting to read our docs and white papers and stuff, and it's just his mind is blown. So we're really excited to have him on as we keep pushing forward. All right, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, AB. Next presenter will be for Keycard, Louis. Or
Yep.
like Louis.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, it's a bit noisy around here, but it's going to be better in a second, I guess. Yeah, this is a quick update about Keycard. As Andy said, releasing Keycard is going to be one of the next big thing for our status users. So first, where we are with this release, in terms of production, last town hall, we had a couple of things to fix. So one of them was we had an issue with programming cards on the line, and that is fixed now. So kudos to Michele and our partner NXP for fixing this. We've got 1,000 cards with the latest hardware that are now produced. We had to define. We decided to print on the card, on the back of the card, a QR code to help users download status and open a dedicated status web page. So this QR code is now, we had a couple of discussions on how to define that, and this is done. And so now we just have to print the cards and get them in their packaging ready to ship. And so this is going to be done before the end of the week. In terms of software integration, so the goal is to have Keycard integrated in 1.4. There are a couple of bugs to address. Roman is working on that. We've also decided to review how the puke management is done in the UI. Puke is this code that you enter when you have your card blocked if you've done more than 3 times the wrong pin. So yeah, we've redefined that. And yeah, thanks a lot to Esther and Roman for their help working on this. We still have one issue to fix due to the COVID, is that the posting service that we use from DHL is still blocked. So I'm working on this. the key cards are leaving from a French factory, and things are moving a lot since today in France, since we're slowly getting out of confinement. So I'll follow up on that. That's something to fix. And as Andy said, we're working with the marketing team, defining the communication strategy and tactics, defining a new website. The current one is staying. Keycard.tech is a website for Keycard as a technology and for developers. And we'll have status.im/keycard. That's going to be for the status plus keycard bundle. So it's going to be much more for users, understanding what's the value if you're a status user to get a keycard. And there's going to be a frequently asked questions section. And we'll also work with Rajiv on a technical article. Sorry. Apart from that, just wanted to mention that there's lots of work ongoing on our preloaded cards scenario. For those who don't know, what does it mean? We want to be able to distribute or sell key cards that are holding a bunch of assets, whether ETH or ERC20 tokens or NFTs, and that will be preloaded with the card. For the user, it means that a key card would be a key to unlock these assets and have them released to their status wallet or actually any wallet. So this wallet could also be a smart contract wallet used for payments in the future, or any user's wallet, because we want him to be free to get these assets anywhere. And from a technical standpoint, we're working on a couple of things. The assets, they are not on the card itself. They are not on the private key. I mean, on the EO external own account of the key card itself. They are on a smart contract. And so we are developing this smart contract. We want this smart contract to handle both ERC20s and NFTs. We are developing a tool for us or our partners to easily generate these smart contracts that we're calling actually buckets of assets. We are working on a dApp, which is here to redeem these assets by running this dApp on status and asking to the user to tap his card and optionally to enter or scan a password or a QR code. And we are also doing some extra work on the request screen to handle this scenario properly in terms of UX. So yeah, there's a lot of work ongoing there. And that's what I want to tell about today.
Hello from the Nimbus team. We have a quick announcement for everyone who hasn't been following the Ethereum 2 development very closely. One of the most important news from the last few weeks is that Ethereum 2 has reached an important milestone, which is the launching of the first multi-client public testnet. And the network is called Schlessi, which I've been told is a train station in Berlin, which is the last stop, the last place you stop before reaching a place called Full Node. Apparently, that's a place in Berlin. So the interesting thing about this network is that it's using the mainnet config, so it's very close to what the public launch of Ethereum 2 is going to represent. And it's currently using the Goerli network, so you need some GoWeed to become a validator. If you are a core contributor at Status, and then you want to try becoming a validator, you can reach out in Discord, and we can help you out. Our own team has been quite busy in making sure that we are compatible with this network. And if you clone the Nimbeacon repo, which you see some instructions on the screen, connecting to the network is just a matter of executing a single command, make Schlessi. So try it out. We are still smoothing out some of the issues, but things should get increasingly more stable in the coming weeks. So from reaching this milestone, if you look into the future, there are a few things that will be our primary focus. First of all, we need to deliver a lot of optimizations in various aspects of the client. These are things like the syncing speed when you join the network, perhaps the power usage of when you run something like this on a low power device, and even the validator revenue is one thing that the clients will be competing against each other, because determining what is the most optimal way to behave as a validator is an NP-complete problem. So each of the clients will have some slightly different flavor of a solution and optimizations for this. The other obvious focus is something that Corey mentioned already in this town hall. It's hardening our code base, preparing it for an external security audit, which we hope will get started very soon. And finally, we want to make sure that our final deliveries and a product is as accessible as possible and easy to use for actual validators. So we'll be focusing on end-user documentation and various operational safety features when you need to manage a beacon node as a system administrator or something like this. Our own team is committed to run the beacon node ourselves and to be participating as validators in the network as soon as it launches. So we'll make sure that all the features one needs to do this are in place. So that's it for us, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Zahari. Let's get to that ambassador slide one moment.
All right.
Excellent. All right, Henry, I guess you'll be talking with ambassadors today. Take it away.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, awesome. Sweet. So I'm going to be giving updates on the ambassador program. So the updates is just from the past 2 weeks. So I'm going to start with translation. So majority of the tasks completed over the past 2 weeks were translations. The quarterly report were translated to Spanish by Nicholas, German by Alexander, Italian by Enrico. So Nasib and Albert finished the Arabic and Indonesian translations for Status React. Aero translated Status into Turkish 100% from scratch, and he also helped set up a Status Turkish community on the Status app. So Paulo also helped translate Ruge's blog post, the Assemble on the front lines of COVID-19 relief that was added to Assemble. So he's translated into Portuguese. Next slide, please. Sorry, can you actually hear me? Oh, awesome, great. So we had some virtual events. Lizzie helped in the It's Gang virtual meeting Sugar Club. So it was a nightclub party in Crypto Vocel. You can find the link in the slide. And also Python helped moderate the principles webinars with ambassadors that was hosted on the 28th of April. Next slide, please. Sweet. So I wrote the welcome guide because I noticed there were a lot of people that was just joining that struggle to find their way around. So I just covered how to set up your account, your wallet, setting up ENS names and all of that in the welcome guide. So whenever someone joins, we just guide them to the welcome guide so they could read it and get an overview of how the app works. So Daniel also he interviewed Jay from Pull Together in the Onward podcast that is actually listed on media, the state of usnetwork.com. So you can find it there and listen to it, and you can actually access Pull Together from dab.ps using the Status app. So that's all for the ambassador program. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Henry. Looks like we'll be taking Q&A. Let's see. Should I read the questions or just... I'll read the questions. First question is, Python wanted to know, a user requested feature which is already in the near-term pipeline, push notifications for Android, and he wanted to know if it's being implemented through Google's proprietary FCM platform. And if yes, there is a concern about metadata protection. The same thing recently implemented by another newly launched app called Session. We think we've heard of them, by Loki Project. It's also a concern, and they offer the choice between FCM and background polling. What do you guys think? A new project called Android Open Push, which is sponsored by the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research through the Prototype Fund program. Actually, it looks like Andre's not here to answer the question. Is anyone else available? So the funny thing is, this actually was a previous town hall question that got skipped, and so it looks like we're going to skip it and do it the next town hall. So we'll just skip this slide and move on to the next one. Have somebody answer it next time. Okay. So the next question is from Envious Mint Cream Arabian Horse. I'm never going to get tired of these names. We're looking for any shortened links to join to send invitations. I guess people are probably used to referral links. Can anyone field this? Skipping that one too. Okay. All right. Here's probably an easier one to answer. Jolly Glaring, I don't know how to pronounce Solanodon, wants to know, I'd love to see some official usage stats released, including which dApps received or generated the most traffic. Okay, I think we're skipping all the questions. It looks like Andre was going to be answering all three. Thank you very much for attending this town hall, number 57 on May 11, 2020. The next town hall will be on May 25th. Thank you so much for everyone who presented, and have a wonderful day. Signing off.